My name is Hannah, and this is my beauty budget. Hey y'all, so I'm finally sitting down to film what is supposed to be my May check-in. So I usually film my check-in at the very end of each month and post it either on the last day of the month or the first day of the next month. And for the first time in the entire history of my channel, I wasn't able to be right on time with my check-in this month. So this is my May check-in, but I'm going to be checking in just about how everything's been going up until now. I'm filming this on June 8th, I think. And I see no reason to keep the check-in confined to only things that happened in May. I'm just checking in officially, finally, about how it's been going to be on a budget. If you haven't been following me for very long and you'd like to know more of the details about my budget, I did film a whole video in which I introduced this project, and I'll link that video in the cards right now. It's the first video of the year. It's from the 1st of January, and that's where you can find out all about how much I'm allowed to spend per month and what all of my rules are, etc. This video is just me talking. There's not really any difference between the meat and the introduction. So let's go ahead and get into the meat of the video. I guess all of my videos are just me talking, but you know what I'm saying. In this video, I'm just talking off the cuff. I'm just talking based on some notes actually that I've taken. Sorry, I'm gonna wait for this siren to stop. So my first note just says to say that I had a hard month, which I already did. I kind of had like a little pre-check-in already. I did a get ready with me on the day that I should have been filming my actual check-in because I had a bunch of other stuff to do. And I feel like I have to rally spiritually to film these check-ins because I really have to take notes about how it's actually been going, and I have to kind of dig deep. And especially because I'm often talking about my relationship with my compulsive desire to spend and my past issue of overspending and the way the budget keeps that addictive behavior in check. It requires a kind of brutal honesty with the self that isn't always easy. So I think at the time that I filmed that little pre-check-in, check-in, I just didn't feel like I had the grit to do it. I felt like I couldn't, not only could I not talk about it, I felt like I couldn't talk about it with myself yet. I mean, I kind of knew it was going on, but I wasn't really ready to be explicit. So I'm ready now because I'm feeling a little bit better now. But I had a hard month. I said it in that video, I implied it in that video, but I didn't really explicate the reasons. When I sat down to try to make a list of them, it was difficult because I think just what's been going on is that I've been really, really busy. And I'm gonna say something that I've heard other YouTubers say that's really annoying, but it is kind of exciting. I'm working on a project that I can't talk about yet on my channel. And as soon as I can, as soon as it has come enough to fruition that I can share, I will share. But the reason that it's something that I can't talk about yet is that it's exciting and it's potentially big for me, and it's really cool. It would represent a real lifestyle shift for me, and it would represent some dreams coming true. Like there's something really exciting potentially brewing. It is not solidified yet enough for me to talk about it, but there's a lot of stress that comes along with dreams maybe coming true. And one of you left a wonderful comment about how your mother always says that good stress is still stress. I love that. And I learned about that actually in health class when I was in high school, that there are two kinds of stress. There's eustress and distress. So usually when we say I'm so stressed, or this is stressing me out, we're talking about distress, like bad stress. But eustress, it's one word, E-U-S-T-R-E-S-S, kind of the stress of something really exciting happening. It affects the body in the same way, and it affects the life in the same way to some degree. I have been experiencing my share of distress this month that has just come from being overwhelmed with work, not all of which I felt that gung-ho about doing. And for me, when I don't have time to stop and smell the flowers and to breathe and to think, I get really unhappy because as an artist and a writer, I need that time. I feel like when my days are completely packed with work of some kind or of many kinds, as they are for me, I don't have time to inhabit my mind enough to be productive as a writer. And I'm not talking about literally tapping away and making words. There's a whole other kind of work that happens in the heart and the mind and the spirit for a writer, which is that you're taking in the world and processing it and getting ready to write about it. Sadie's crying and I don't know why. Sadie, what is it? Sadie's gotten it in her head that she wants to leave the apartment and go out into the hall and sniff at the doors of all of the other people. I'm gonna get her a little harness and see if she'll wear it. We tried it one time and she had none of it, but maybe wanting to go out of our apartment will encourage her to be comfortable with her harness. I will report back about that. It's sure to be hilarious. Anyway, writing isn't just about literally physically writing. It's about building a life for yourself where your mind can function as a writer's mind. It's about the life of the mind. And this month, I have not had room for the life of the mind that I crave and that I actually feel responsible for cultivating, because I feel like my work as a writer is my most important work in the world. And that is why I haven't been able to show up on YouTube in the same way, because you remember I was doing all those get ready with me's and I was doing all those reckonings and stuff, because that kind of video doesn't require the life of the mind to be as robust as my life of my mind needs to be for me to give you guys what I'm trying to give you on YouTube. I've talked before about the fact that I feel like my work as a writer and then my work here on YouTube are kind of intertwined, in that both of them have to do with taking the world in and sort of processing it and regurgitating it in language in a way that other people can consume and use to better their own lives and to see themselves more clearly. That's the work of writing, and it's also the work that I do here. And I had nothing this month. I felt like a piece of myself had been removed because it had just been edged out by work, by stress and work, and I was using my brain and my body constantly to do other stuff, and there just wasn't room. And that causes distress. That makes me unhappy. But at the same time, some of the projects that I've been working on and some of the things that have been taking up that time and I've been having to stick my nose to the grindstone for have been related to some stuff that I really want to do and that I'm really excited about, and it's been an investment in a future that will be more the future that I've always wanted for myself. And so that's exciting, but that's been stressing me out too, because it's hard to stomach something you've always wanted. It's like that thing of how you can feel kind of sick or something when you maybe like meet the love of your life, because by investing so much love, by being so fulfilled by something, you just risk more. Like you risk losing it, you risk fucking it up. It's risky to go after the life you want. So Hannah, and it's extremely unfortunate that this preternatural level of eustress and this, for me, slightly uncommon level of distress that comes from just work stress all happened together in the same month. So that is what caused this. That's what caused kind of a break in my more robust content. That's what has caused me to refer back over and over again to what a difficult month I was having. And that's the sort of the subject of this check-in. So it's difficult for me to talk about kind of what happened. You guys don't want to hear me listing like all the projects that I had. I did it a little bit in the other video, just talking about, the writing, the grant writing, the sewing, all the stuff, whatever. Like it's much less interesting, I think, exactly what it is that's been stressing me out and filling my time so much that I haven't been able to live the life of the mind that I desire. So that's not interesting. The other thing, the exciting thing I can't really talk about yet. So I can't really talk that much, nor would it be fruitful for me to talk that much about the reasons why. But I can talk about the effect, the outcome, and the very relevant and somewhat bananas thing that I want to talk about in this check-in is that the month I had, with all its madness and craziness and fullness and just sort of chaos, caused me to backslide terribly in my habits. And it's not my actual, well, yeah, my habits, not my actual spending, because I won't break my budget. The budget is in stone. I won't break it. I have a lot of grit and determination and clarity. I've made a promise to myself. I've made a promise to you guys. I'm not going to backslide off of my budget. But in terms of all of the behaviors that the no buy year and the budgeting have helped to reduce and check, and the behaviors of mind, the patterns of my mind that I've seen just melting away and being replaced by a much more productive, calmer, and happier mind, all of that just went up in smoke this month. And I've talked about it before. I've talked about how stress causes bad habits to reemerge. And so it's not like it's totally new content for my check-ins or new content for my channel. I want to rephrase it and talk about it in light of the month I've had. And I think that that hopefully will come along with some new stuff, some new ways of thinking about it, because I did have some revelations of my own with regards to that function this month. So let me try to describe a little bit more clearly what I'm talking about when I say that my old behaviors have reared their ugly head. So I took a note about it. I said, even though I haven't broken my budget, yay, and my finances are still in a relatively stable state, very luckily this month, because I had a disaster at the end of the month that cost me a lot of money. I'll talk about that at the end of the check-in. Even though that's true, I can feel myself slipping into the old mindsets. One of them is that thing of constantly looking for something to want. That is something I haven't really experienced since my no-buy. It went away during the no-buy year, and it came back so strongly this month, where even if I didn't want anything, like I would be sitting there not wanting anything. I didn't want any of the new makeup releases. I didn't have any clothes in mind that I wanted. I would my brain would want me to want something, would want me to obsess over something, so that I could have a break from thinking about all the other stuff, a break from the eustress, a break from the distress, a break from the anxiety that has been just snowballing around the combination of those two kinds of stress being intertwined this month. And my brain was just like, abort, abort, abort anxiety snowball. And the only thing, first thing that it knew to do was to try to get me to want to buy something so that I could focus away from the anxiety snowball. And I haven't felt my brain triggering me to want something like that. And since when my no-buy first started, my brain kept trying to do it, and I was like, wow, brain, you're effed up. It was like one of the first things I noticed when the no-buy started. And so it came back, but I didn't have the strength not to give into it. I wanted it. At the same time, I was like, this is the bad thing. This is the bad stuff. And I did it anyway. And again, I didn't break my budget, but I allowed myself to seek things to desire by browsing online primarily this month, because I didn't have time to do anything else. I would comb the clothing websites, comb Sephora for stuff I wanted, put it all into my cart, take it all out of my cart, weigh certain things against other things, add things up, subtract things from each other. I would say more, and I know I've talked in other check-ins about kind of ping-ponging back to this behavior and then back to feeling stronger and newer, like not the old Hannah, but the new Hannah, but then dipping back into it and then coming back to feeling stronger and newer again. I've talked about that before, but I feel like this month, more than ever since before my no-buy year, I was using online shopping specifically as my primary form of escapism. I went to it for excitement when I was bored. I went to it for procrastination when I was overwhelmed with work. I went to it for a jolt of pleasure when I was feeling gloomy, or when I was feeling kind of bogged down by how little elbow room I had inside my own mind. I spent the whole month, this is like the brunt of my check-in, I spent the whole month just hopping sporadically from website to website and adding things into my cart and taking things out of my cart, and just generally pushing that button for dopamine again and again and again. I don't want that life, you guys. That was why I did the no-buy to begin with. My budget is saving me from allowing that behavior to put me into debt, for which I'm very grateful. But not wanting to be in debt isn't the only reason I started a no-buy, and it's not the only reason I'm on a budget. I don't want this to be my life. I don't want my joy, my pleasure, my sense of being okay in life to come from pushing that shopping button to get dopamine. I want to build a more stable baseline of happiness, actual contentment that saves me from feeling like I constantly have to push the dopamine button because I feel okay already. And I didn't have that this month. I didn't feel okay already. I felt crazy. And so I was just like dosing myself, micro-dosing myself with shopping. Now, hand in hand with that, and I did indicate this somewhat in my little mini check-in, is that I've been thinking a lot about PR this month. And I've been thinking about the relationship between PR. I mean, I would say free stuff in general. Gifts from companies, if a company sends me something because they're hoping that I'll talk about it on my channel. PR through Octoly, which is a system by which I get to choose a few free things at a time to receive in exchange for giving an honest review of them on my channel within 30 days. And things that are sent to me as gifts. So gifts from subscribers, gifts from my friends, some of whom are also YouTubers, and so they end up with extra stuff because they have PR and then they're looking to give it to someone who's going to love and appreciate it, of whom I am one. And so I've been thinking about the relationship between free stuff of any kind, much of which is coming to me because I'm on this platform, and my obsessive behaviors. And I am going to I'm actually going to do a lot of videos about PR this month. I hope it doesn't become too much. Maybe I'll try to space them out, but I have some planned and I'm really excited about it. Not because I'm obsessed with talking specifically about PR, although I do get a lot of questions about it from you guys, and I am preparing within the next couple of months to answer a lot of those questions in a handful of different videos. I think it'll be really interesting, but also because I think that the question of free stuff, it gets at something about my no-buy and my budget project that simply budgeting doesn't. It gets at it from another angle. And the whole situation is incredibly dramatic and ironic. The fact that I started a YouTube channel because I was going on a no-buy, both to save money and to kind of redefine my sense of how much stuff I want in my life. And my life changed completely, both my behaviors surrounding money and shopping, and the actual structure of my life has changed completely because now I have a YouTube channel and I have you guys. And I'm a different person. It's a different life. And I care so much about this. I care so much about these connections, this project. I am so in love with it. I'm so full of joy. I feel like a part of my destiny, a part of my work in the world is being unlocked, being fulfilled. I love it so much. And then to have this thing facilitate a lot of free stuff coming into my life, and it's beautiful stuff. It's the very stuff that I am so in love with that I started a whole YouTube channel about trying to moderate. But it's not because I think the stuff is evil. It's because I think that, and it's not because I don't want beautiful things. It's because I don't want to overspend on beautiful things. I don't want to lose touch with the valuing of beautiful things. And I don't want to fill my life with stuff that I don't actually like that much, right? But the stuff itself, I still value, I still love, and it brings a lot of joy to me. So you can see the weird irony that's just starting to come to a head. Like I kind of knew it was happening for the first several months, but now we're almost halfway through the year and I'm like, okay, this is crazy bananas. It's so interesting that the project of trying to moderate and the project of learning to change the brain, doing that project publicly has caused the stuff that is my exact desire and my exact nemesis to come into my life for free. And so it takes away the issue of money, which was one of my core issues, but it leaves the issue of stuff. I'm kind of getting into the contents of the future videos that I'm planning. I'm not going to do the whole thing now because I want to actually plan it and do it in a more structured way. And right now I'm really talking off the cuff. But the note that I have here is to say that being on the receiving end of free stuff, PR, gifts, etc. It has huge benefits for me in a number of ways. Some to do with my channel, some to just do with my personal life. And there is a sense of carefully curated abundance and beauty that has built up here on my vanity that I don't have the money for and I couldn't have bought myself. So I have I had, I think after my palette declutter, 7 palettes, eyeshadow palettes, and I've since acquired some more. And there are more than will fit right now in my little eyeshadow palette thing, but I don't feel overwhelmed right now because all of them I've chosen from the Purgatory box. And every time I look into this little corner where the eyeshadow palettes are sort of slightly haphazardly piled and my plant is coming over them and they're shiny and they're rich and they're lovely and creamy and sparkly, I feel joy every day when I look at that. And I feel this sense of incredible gratitude and luck that being on this platform has brought these gifts to me. So it's not one-dimensional because I have a genuine love and a genuine joy for some of these wonderful things. I'm profoundly grateful that being able to select some things to keep from a group of free things that have come my way is one of the rewards of the hard work that I'm doing on this platform, because I'm not being financially compensated in any reasonable way for this work. So it does make me happy. I have complicated feelings about lots of stuff piling up, and I'll get into that more in future videos. But the thing that I wanted to say, the bigger caveat to that joy, is that receiving things for free does not help to mitigate or dampen the effects of the shopping lizard brain. The lizard brain that I talked about having experienced this month, where I'm like clicking through all the websites and putting things in my cart and all that stuff. You maybe would think, if you've never been in this situation of receiving a bunch of free beauty products, if beauty products are your thing, for example, if you've never been an employee at a beauty store or something, and you're not an influencer, you've never had the occasion to be given free stuff, free beauty products, you might think that receiving free stuff would cancel the desire to buy stuff, that you would feel less compulsive because your desire for new things would be satisfied. But the opposite, in my experience, is true. It's not like food where you eat it. It's not like protein. It's not like steak where every bite you eat, you want it less and less until you're full. It's not like that. It's like Oreo cookies or chips or something. It's like junk food where you just want to keep eating it and keep eating it, and like these chemicals turn on in the brain and you're like, feed me, feed me, feed me. That's what it's like. That's what shopping's like. That's what receiving free stuff is like. That's what new stuff all the time is like. And so I've just been thinking a lot about the connection between PR, free stuff, my budget, and my return to the worst of the worst mental behaviors with regards to shopping that I experienced this month. So during the month when I was in the absolute throes of it, when it was the worst of the worst, I knew it was happening and I felt like there was no way out. I felt like moderation wasn't going to rescue me. And I'm doing much better now because I've had some conversations with people about things that I was anxious about, and I'm feeling better, and some of my work has come to a close or become more clarified and streamlined, and things have just loosened up a little bit. So I feel way better. I'm not doing the obsessive shopping thing. I haven't been for kind of the past 3 or 4 days, because it was about 4 days ago that I really started to feel myself kind of letting go of all of this stress and it letting go of me. So I don't feel like it's so urgent right now. I feel kind of back to my sane self, and I feel like budgeting is easy. Letting go of stuff is easy. Not being too excited about PR and making sure that I don't accept anything that I don't really want is going to be easy. I just feel like normal again and in control again. But during the month, several times I thought to myself, I need to go back on the no buy, because that's the only way that I can get my sanity back. And I may yet do it. I don't think I'm ready to do it right now. So I thought about during the month, and I was like, but I'm not ready to do it right now. I can't do it right now. It was like, I need to do it, and I knew that I was going to do it, but I didn't feel strong enough to start at that moment. But the fact that this whole thing happened, that this month happened, and the fact that I felt the way that I did, and that I got so out of touch with the new self, makes me think that it might not be a bad idea to do at least a makeup no-buy of some kind, if not a no-buy across the board, for a couple of months. And I don't think that this month is a good month to start, partly because Angelica is coming to visit at the end of the month. Saving my budget so that I have the flexibility to spend when I'm out with people and friends having a social experience is really valuable to me. It's something that I really love about the budget. But I might go on some kind of no-buy. I think I likely will go on some kind of no-buy after that. And the other thing I've been thinking about is PR, hand in hand with that. I've been thinking about the fact that just going on a no-buy, but continuing to receive, and I don't receive that much PR. Like compared to most channels, even channels my size, it's really not that much. But I've been thinking about, in conjunction with the no-buy, instituting some kind of PR fast or moderation with clear rules, something where it's not just a constant flood, and I may start saying no to all gifts or more gifts or something like that. So it's not happening yet, but I wanted to bring it up because I do think that if I hadn't sort of found my way out of crazy town naturally, if I hadn't been able to right myself, instituting an emergency no-buy and an emergency PR fast would have been the answer. I really strongly believe in using constraints and clear rules to change your brain, and then going back to kind of living your best life and moderating and experimenting and having your ups and downs. But if you get way, 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 way down and way, way out of touch with yourself, going back to the original strict rules as a strategy, I really believe in that. And I was this close. I could have needed it, but I kind of like hoisted myself out of it without having to do that now. But I'm thinking about it for the future, just to shore up my mental and spiritual resources. And then the last thing I'll say before I tell you about my extreme traumatic drama at the end of the month is that I've been thinking a lot this month about the concept of accountability for projects like this. And this is something that I haven't really talked about before, because my feeling has always been that what matters the most is that you have the grit that you need to see yourself through the project that you decide, whether it be a no-buy or a low-buy or a budget, whatever it is that you need to change yourself, to change your life. I've always been a real proponent of you being the one to be your cheerleader and you being the one to have the determination and the clarity and the self-love and the self-worth to see yourself through. You could kind of sum up my previous philosophy as being like, if you can't be accountable to yourself, then how are you gonna, then like what else would help, kind of. And this month I want to moderate that a little bit, because accountability saved me this month. In general, for a whole no-buy year or for a whole low-buy or budget, lifelong or whatever, yes, you have to make a promise to yourself, and then you have to be able to keep that promise. Like, you can't depend on other people to keep your promises to yourself for you. So all of that stuff about grit, I'm not taking it back. I just experienced, being so shrouded in darkness and feeling so overwhelmed by my compulsions that I think if I didn't have accountability to to you guys, in short, for my budget, I might have broken it this month if it was just me. And that's the first time I think I can say that, actually, even since the beginning of my no-buy year. I think even if I hadn't done my no-buy year on YouTube, I wouldn't have broken it. I was real serious about that. And I'm really serious about my budget too. This month, there were days when I was like, the only reason that I'm not buying this sweatshirt right now is because then I would have to tell my subscribers that I broke my budget. And I would not lie to you about that. And because to me, there's something really, really wrong with lying. That's way worse than breaking the budget to me. I feel like breaking a promise to myself, the budget, is one thing. Lying about it even to one other person, let alone thousands of other people, that's another thing. That's something that I can't bring myself to do. So I wasn't gonna lie about it, and I really didn't want to have to tell you that I broke it, which is what I would have had to do if I had, and that was why I didn't break it. So when I say even one other person. What I'm trying to imply there is that you don't need thousands of subscribers in order to have some accountability. I think if it were just Joe, if I had just asked Joe, if I weren't on YouTube, if I'd never done this, and I think it would have been wise, now, I know this now, it would have been wise for me to ask Joe to sit down with me at the end of every month and for me to tell him what I bought and how much it added up to. And just to show him, not to prove to him, not like he's the one who is going to judge, but just to have someone that I would have had to tell if I had broken my promise to myself. I recommend that now after this month. And I don't think I would have recommended it before. I would have been like, no, just don't break your promise. Just be strong, you know? But now after the month I've had, I recommend it. I recommend an accountability partner, a buddy. I recommend having someone who's all up in your business when it comes to your no buy or your low buy or something like that. So the thing that happened, the drama, is that my laptop, what may or may not have happened is that a little bit of wine may or may not have found its way into the place where the power cord plugs in. And it may or may not have destroyed that component, and it may or may not no longer charge. And that's something that apparently costs over $1,000 to fix. Liquids damage. I mean, that may or may not be something that may or may not cost over $1,000. It was just more than the laptop is worth to have it fixed from one little thing, like one little thing. Everything else works. The laptop works, the hard drive, everything, it works. It's just you can't charge it. And to fix it, it was going to cost more than it's worth to me, because I have been realizing more and more that I would need to upgrade to a more powerful computer within the next 6 months. Because when I purchased that laptop in 2016, I was just a writer. And I went in and I was like, I want the littlest, lightest, sleekest, least powerful computer that you have, because all I'm going to be doing is word processing. I'm just going to be writing on it. And I want to be able to take it around. I want it to be portable. That's my whole requirement. And I wanted to spend the least amount of money. So that was what I had. That poor little computer has been overloaded beyond its wildest fears by my work on YouTube, because I've been editing videos on it and I've been uploading and processing videos from it, and I've been just doing all this stuff. It takes forever to render a video on that little machine, and I've gotten to the point where it's just seriously dragging me down. So I have been preparing myself to spend a lot of money on a new computer. I didn't expect it to be last week. Luckily, similar to the thing with when I moved, which was the last check-in, I've been saving. I have an emergency fund with a picture of a laptop on it, which maybe was unwise, because it could have been that I sealed my fate. My savings got pretty much wiped out when we moved, and I used my savings to move us to our new apartment, but my emergency fund hadn't. And so I had an emergency. My computer stopped working, and instead of spending the over $1,000 to fix it, I decided to use that $1,000 towards the new computer that I knew that I was going to inevitably have to buy. I would have loved to still have my little writing laptop to use for its original purpose, and then somewhere down the line invested in a more powerful machine for editing. I would have loved to do that. That's not what happened. Instead, now I have this new computer. I'm using it for writing and editing. It's not as little and lightweight. Too bad, but it's fine. I mean, it is so unbelievably fortunate to have something in my life as marvelous as a laptop. I mean, it's just unbelievable. But the point of sharing it is that once again, I was incredibly proud of myself that when this emergency happened, I was able to take care of it. I was able to just go to the store, pick the one I wanted, and buy it with money. I didn't have to finance it. You know, that emergency cushion that everyone talks about, where you should have some money socked away in case of an emergency. And my whole adult life I've been like, yeah. What's more important, having a cushion in case of an emergency or being able to buy all the makeup at Sephora? The answer used to be being able to buy all the makeup at Sephora. But since the beginning of my No Buy year, it's changed, and now it's the first thing. And lo and behold, the emergency happened, and lo and behold, I had what I needed. And I'm so happy to report that back to you guys and to be able to share it kind of as a cautionary tale in case anyone's still going yeah about that cushion. It's worth it, you guys. It's worth it to save. It's worth it to protect your emergency fund. And then the last thing I want to say about that, the note that I took is that I noticed that spending all that money on the laptop you would think that when that happens, you would then immediately feel like, oh my gosh, I've spent so much money that now I gotta not spend anything. And that would be another thing, similar to the PR. You would think it would be something that would dampen the compulsive desire to spend, because it would like draw you up short and be like, oh man, like there are really important things in life that I have to buy that cost so much money. What is a lipstick compared to this? Why did I even want that sweater? Like, let's just break out into a cold sweat and then just leave everything behind. Like, you would think that that would be the effect of having to drop so much money at once on an important tool for work. But that's not what happened to me. What happened was that it made me feel like a big spender. I bought the computer and then I was just like, yeah. And I mean, I didn't really do that because, again, I have this budget in place. But spiritually, habitually, emotionally, I just felt like I can buy anything. Like, yeah, like, why shouldn't I buy this? Why shouldn't I put all this stuff in my cart and watch it add up? Like, I felt this feeling of a roll or a high. Like, I just kind of felt like it was a sharp reminder that spending money breeds spending money. And even buying something so expensive with my emergency fund, and now having to start building up my emergency fund again from scratch, which is what happened next. Instead of immediately wanting to put as much back into my emergency fund as possible to build it back up again, instead of that, it just made me want to spend more money because it feels good to have the money to spend. And I've really had to give myself a talking to after the purchase of this computer to be like, Hannah, you don't have the money to spend. You had that money saved because you have not been acting like you have the money to spend for a year and a half. So that was the only reason you had that money, because you don't have it to spend and you've been behaving like you don't have it to spend, and you still don't have it to spend. I've been saying that to myself every day, and it hasn't really stuck. Like, I know it in my brain, obviously, but it hasn't really stuck in terms of how I feel about it. I still kind of feel like, yeah, you know, and I'm sure that it will go away. This is another reason why I'm considering going back on a no-buy for a little while. I think I need to fast. I think I need to do some shopping fasting, and it's coming. Again, not right away, but it'll be interesting to check in halfway through the budget year. That'll be the end of this month. And I will report back at the beginning of next month with my thoughts about what the first half of the year has been like, and possibly checking in about doing a little mini project in the middle of my larger project. All right, that is it. That's everything that I have to check in about today. I hope you guys enjoyed this check-in video. Thank you so much for watching. And I hope that you are remembering to take extra good care of yourself right now so that you can be the most effective version of yourself as you do your work in the world.